Hi there, let's go over the topic 2 review. So the vocabulary, a circuit is a complete path that electrons flow, and they always flow from the negative to the positive part of a battery or cell. A source is something that provides energy to the circuit. So here would be an example of a source. Generators might be sources as well. A load is something like a light that we put into a circuit. A control is something that can turn the circuit on or off, and it's like a switch. And battery is a set of cells connected together. So one electrochemical cell connected with another, this would be a battery. This is one cell, two cells. Many cells connected together make a battery. Number 2, let's explain the difference between static electricity, which was topic 1, and current. Static tends to stay in one place, even though it can move. Current has the ability to move and tends to move through a circuit. It's the flow. Current is the flow of electrons. It is also the amount of charge that passes through one point in the wire. What are the 4 basic elements of an electrical circuit? Well, we need a conductor, which is a wire, usually a metal. We need a source, which is a battery, or if it's just one, it's a cell. We need a load, a bulb or a resistor. And we need a control, which is the switch. So those are the basic components. What's the difference between a battery and a cell? We talked about that before. There's a couple ways we can hook up cells to make a battery. One, if we line them up this way, so that this is the negative end, this is the positive end, and we keep lining them up like this. We can add the voltages. So if this was 1.5 volts and this was 1.5 and so on, and this was 1.5, the total voltage here, of course, would be, add them all together. So that would be 4.5 volts. However, you could hook them up differently. You could hook them up like this, side by side, and then hook wires to them. And so if we do it this way, and they're each 1.5 volts, we hook them up in parallel, and so the total voltage here, even though they're all in line, is 1.5. But what happens is, this situation, even though it's less voltage, if this dies out or drains, then we still have 2 more, so this situation in parallel will last longer. Draw a circuit diagram using symbols. Include a battery, a switch, a load, and a galvanometer with the conducting wires. When you draw circuits, you need to use circuit symbols. So here's one cell. Here's the positive and negative. There's 2, so that would be a battery. The long line represents the positive. The short stubby line, negative, so positive and negative. Now when we draw the wires, we always want to draw them straight and in box-like fashion, no curves to them. Okay, so there's some of my wires. I'm going to add a switch to it, which is my control. There's my switch. Right now it's open, which means the circuit isn't working. I'd have to put it down for it to be closed. Wants me to add a galvanometer, so that's a circle with a G. Galvanometers measure weak electrical current. And a load like a bulb. So we have a symbol for a bulb, kind of a loop like this with a circle around it. And so there's what it would look like. And then what direction, draw the direction that the current flows. Electrons, which is what the current is, electrons flow from the negative part of the battery around and they end up at the positive. How do scientists describe electrical current and what two common instruments are used to measure? Here are the two common instruments, and they're always hooked up in series or as part of the circuit. They're hooked up in what's called in series. In series. This one's called a galvanometer. It measures weak electrical current, usually in milliamps. And this one is called an ammeter. Okay, so here's the galvanometer. And this is an ammeter and it's in amps, capital A for amps. What's the difference? How do you get from a milliamp to an amp? Difference of 1,000. So 1 amp, 1A, 1 amp is equal to 1,000 milliamps. So weak electrical current, strong. Who's Alessandro Volta? And describe what is meant by voltage. Volta was built the first battery, and voltage is the potential difference in a circuit, and it's measured by a voltmeter. And this guy's showing you, you always hook a voltmeter up in parallel, which means it can be on its own and you can just touch these two rods anywhere along the circuit. So we call that hooked up in parallel. There is no device that we use like in current to measure weaker voltage. And that's it. That's our review.